I think it's the IMF and their demand that Greece reach a sustainable debt level by 2020 that remains the key issue for this negotiation. You could say, what does 2 years matter in the long run, but you have to remember that this is the 5th year we're trying to do something about the EU debt crisis. And as such, of course, the IMF feels that we need a credible plan which the market will perceive to being implementable. Yeah, I mean, I think part of the solution this time around will be that Greece is giving up to 10 billion euros to buy back some of their own debt and retire it. But you have to remember that it in itself is what we call an OSI, a public sector involvement in this, which means that essentially we have started the process of taking haircuts on Greek debt. So, 120% or 120% to 22% of GDP doesn't really matter. Everybody knows that if your debt to GDP is higher than 90, you have a huge future tax on your growth and you have negative downside for years to come. So I think this situation is a matter of not trying to get things to spiral out of control, but everything being equal, this is merely, as per usual in EU, a matter of buying time and getting into next year. I will start negotiating who should take the losses here, because we need to reduce Greece's debt to GDP below 90% if we really want Greece to have a future, both on its own, but also certainly in part of the eurozone and Europe. So you need someone to take the loss. Of course, the consequence of losses will be that countries like Germany, Finland and the Netherlands will have to take these losses and absorb them into their fiscal deficit, something which is politically impossible to facilitate, certainly as 2013 is an election year in Germany. So whatever is the most rational, whatever is the best solution for Greece is and remains out of reach in terms of being a political solution. You can reverse your own question and say, if we continue to do what we're doing right now, extend and pretend, the ultimate price ticket for this Greek recovery, this Greek salvation will be immensely much bigger. But I will say that these two things right now are equal price. I am not of the opinion that Greece's exit would be such a bad deal for neither Europe or Greece in itself. You have to remember that European history is full of countries bankrupting themselves. The Kingdom of Spain has been bankrupt no less than 13 times in its history. So new beginning is part of what we need to adapt to. And I think one of the big mistakes we made when we did the euro was exactly not allowing for the fact that one or two countries down the road needed some sort of a pause or a break from the EU. So in my opinion, this is not a matter of either or. This is about being pragmatic. And I think and remains of the opinion that ultimately Greece sometimes in 2013 will have to leave. Absolutely. Don't forget that in Europe, we tend to move and sway between, focus on Greece and then back to Spain. And this weekend, of course, the Catalonian voice for independence increased in both magnitude and in power, as they now have a full parliament to support this idea. Although it remains, and I have to underline this, against the constitution, both of the EU, but certainly after Spain as well. But I mean, there are plenty of forces in Europe which is driving at the end solution, which is ultimately either we start taking losses or one or two countries need to leave. So I see Spain and Cyprus certainly already under the weather, and I don't see any hope for them as well, as long as this remains an extend and pretend game.